Have you ever done something at 65 that you wouldn't have dared to do at 25? Ev. And it didn't happen in a reckless burst of youth, but in the quiet aftermath of a long, stagnant marriage. One moment I was just another aging tourist wandering through Kyoto's bamboo groves. The next I was caught in a whirlwind of silken kimonos, quiet laughter, and longing gazes that made me feel visible again. It wasn't lust that pulled me in. It was something deeper. A need to be seen. To be touched not just by hands but by understanding. And so began my affair. Not with one woman. 3. All Japanese. All beautiful. All impossibly kind in ways I hadn't known in decades. But love, like autumn leaves, is always falling, and not all colors turn to gold. My name is Michael. I'm 65 years old, recently retired from a 40-year career in architecture, and I've been married to Helen for 38 of those years. We live in Minnesota. It's cold most of the time, much like our marriage has been in the last decade. Helen and I were not always like this. We were fire and ambition in our 20s. But careers, children, disappointments, they change you. You become polite strangers in a large house filled with photographs of people you used to be. After our son moved out and the grandchildren stopped visiting, I began to suffocate in the silence. I suggested a trip, but Helen preferred routine. So I went to Japan alone, under the guise of finding myself. It was early November in Kyoto. The air was crisp, the maple leaves like embers falling from the sky. I wandered temples and narrow alleys, my dissar in hand, pretending I was capturing beauty. But really I was searching for connection. That's when I met Imiko. She was standing outside a small tea house, her black hair pinned up, her kimono the color of spring rain. I asked her for directions, fumbling with my terrible Japanese and exaggerated hand gestures. She laughed. The kind of laugh that doesn't mock but invites. "I speak English," she said softly with a bow. That bow. It was the most graceful rejection of loneliness I'd ever experienced. A shared tea, then dinner, then walks under crimson trees. She was 42, divorced, ceramics artist. And she listened to me like every word I said mattered. But Imiko wasn't the only one. There was also Yui Bright, 28, a translator with dreams of moving to Paris. I met her during a guided temple tour. She had a laugh that rang like wind chimes and eyes that flickered with mischief. She teased me about my pronunciation, called me Michelson with an exaggerated flair. She was too young for me. That much was obvious. But she didn't treat me like I was old. She treated me like I was alive. Then there was Aiko, a widow in her 50s who ran a traditional inn in Nara where I stayed for 3 nights. She didn't flirt. She cooked. She brought me homemade soba. She folded my yukata like it was an act of devotion. When we spoke, it was about her late husband, about grief, about beginnings after endings. Each woman gave me something Helen hadn't in years. Attention, warmth, and the illusion that I still mattered. And so it began. Small kisses beneath lanterns, hands brushing in the dark, whispered secrets over sake. I told myself it wasn't cheating. I wasn't sleeping with them, not yet. But emotionally, I was 1,000 miles from Helen. The guilt crept in, of course. I tried to justify it. Helen had emotionally checked out long ago. She didn't even ask what I was doing in Japan, only reminded me to take my cholesterol meds. But at night, after the dinners and the soft silences, I would lie awake wondering, was I falling in love with all 3? Or just running from the love I never had? Then one night, Imiko saw a message from Yui flash on my phone. Her face went pale. "She calls you Michel-sen," she whispered. I hesitated. "She's a friend." Imiko's eyes searched mine, and I knew the weight of what I had broken. I confessed. Not just to Imiko but to all 3. One by one. I told them the truth, that I had been lost, that they each filled a different hole inside me, and that I never meant to hurt anyone. Imiko didn't speak. She just nodded once, slowly, then turned and walked away. Yui cried. Not hysterically, but silently, like a faucet leaking behind a closed door. "I thought I was special," she said. "I thought I made you young." You did, I whispered. But the damage was done. Aiko, the oldest, surprised me the most. She held my hand for a long time. Then she said, Michael-san, you are like many of the foreign men who come here. You do not mean harm, but you leave behind confusion. I asked if she could forgive me. She smiled sadly. You were honest too late. I returned to Minnesota with a suitcase full of souvenirs and a heart cracked in 3 places. I didn't tell Helen. Couldn't. But she knew. She knew the moment I hugged her at the airport. There was distance in my eyes. There was softness in hers that hadn't been there for years. She didn't ask questions. She just said, You look different. I replied, So do you. That night we didn't sleep apart. Months have passed. Sometimes I still get emails from Yui, short and sweet, like a breeze through a half-closed window. Emiko never reached out again. Aiko sent me a New Year's postcard. Wounds fade, but we remember how they came. Helen and I began therapy. For the first time in years we speak. Not just about logistics but about us. I haven't told her everything. But she's no fool. And I think that's her gift to me. To let me carry the shame while she carries the silence. I often wonder, was it wrong to seek love in a foreign land? Or was it wronger to keep pretending love existed where it had long since died? In the end, I didn't choose any of them. And they didn't choose me. But for a fleeting moment I was chosen. I was cherished. I was seen. And sometimes that's all a man really wants.